Minasan Konnichiwa. Arigato, arigato, domo arigato. Am I right in my Japanese pronunciation? Thank you. This is not my first time in Japan. I traveled first time almost 35, 36 years ago. And then I had a chance to visit two important places, or you can say three. One was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Another one was Minamata. All of you know, but some of the friends from abroad might not be aware of Minamata, where this big mercury poisoning disease erupted, and it was one of the biggest industrial disasters in 50s, early 50s. But before talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I would like to congratulate the organizers, my dear young friends, dear brother Minamata. He started telling M. It is not Minamata, it is Nishimura. Nishimura, the president and founder of UPI, Mr. Moon, good to see you after a long time in Japan. Last time we met in India. My dear fellow laureates, sisters and brothers, I was overwhelmed with several emotions standing in front of the monuments in Hiroshima. On one hand, I saw the gardens with flowers blossoming. Children were playing, laughing. But my memory went down, and I could also see the pictures put in the corner. But something which I never forget. I met a group of South Asian children. They came with their teachers and parents, perhaps. And they asked a question, that why this disaster, nuclear bombing took place, why it had happened. I had no answer. Simple answers could be given. Political answers could be given. But what is the humanitarian answer? What is the answer that makes us angry? Angry not for hatred and destruction or revenge, but angry to find solutions. After those 35, 36 years, only a couple of days ago, and for several weeks actually now, I was watching and seeing the photos, listening in the news, that how the mothers were trying to take away the bodies of their children after this Hamas massacre in Israel. But subsequently, how the bombing has destroyed Not only the places in Gaza, but it destroyed the purest and the most precious gift of God, and that is childhood, that is children. I saw children were crying because their parents died. Parents were crying, holding the dead bodies of their children. And then I realized, and I can say, may it be in Minamata, may it be in Nagasaki, may it be in Hiroshima, may it be in Gaza, may it be in Ukraine. If wars take place, it means we are not yet civilized. We made so much progress in so many fields, but we are not yet civilized. We have not created space for dialogue. The tables are invented maybe thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago. But don't we have that sense of humanity and openness to sit across the table and try to find some answers, some solutions through dialogue? It's very unfortunate. Two weeks ago, or maybe less than that, 10 days ago, 103 fellow laureates from all disciplines, 4 of them, my dear sisters, are sitting here. We have issued a statement with very simple message that all Palestinian children are our children. All Israelis' children are our children. Children have never been responsible for any war, any violence, any insurgency, any conflict and crisis. But why they are forced to pay the price of those wars and conflicts? Not only in these generations, but perhaps the generations to come will have to pay the cost of it. The mental, psychological, spiritual trauma, in addition to what we are losing now, is something which is irreparable. Dear friends, I have been working on the issue of children and protecting childhood for whole my life. On slavery, child labor, child trafficking, etc. Let me share the first story where I could have a dream. I was passionate about the issues of the most marginalized children and women during my student life. I taught engineering because I studied engineering, but after giving up my career, I started a magazine, a journal dedicated for the cause of the most excluded, marginalized children and women in my country, India. One day, a desperate father knocked on my door, whose daughter was about to be sold to a brothel. I learned that this girl, 15-year-old, was born and grew up in slavery because her parents were enslaved by some slave masters, brick kiln owners. This man came with one expectation that perhaps I am going to help him with writing his story in my magazine. But when he said that how they have been treated, molested, raped, no freedom, no wages, no holidays, nothing. When I was writing this story, I felt that if this 15-year-old Sabo, her name was Sabo, was my daughter, what would I do? I'm not going to simply write and wait that somebody will read it and then act or may not act. I decided to go with this guy. His name was Basal Khan. I said, Khan, I will go with you. He said, these people will kill us. They are mafia. They have guns. But somehow we managed to go. All of us were beaten up. Basal Khan was caught by the employer. We had to come empty hands. But I did not give up, because I always believed that even if you are empty hand, you cannot be the empty heart. My heart was filled with dream that I am going to rescue those children. That was not only one girl, but there were many young children I saw at that brick kiln, quite far away from Delhi. We went to the court with the help of a lawyer friend, and within less than 2 weeks, 36 children, women, and men were freed under the existing law. This was the first documented incident of freedom of slave labor, slave children in contemporary world with civilian effort anywhere in the world. That is the documented history, so they were legally freed. But dear sisters and brothers, when I was coming with them, I saw a different, I could feel something differently. These boys and girls who were born in slavery, they were jumping on the roads. As somebody has put many frogs inside a basket, and if you open the cover, they suddenly jump. And the cars were honking on the roads in front of the court, High Court of Delhi. But for them, it was freedom for those children. The mothers were coming and hugging. Tears were rolling down on their cheeks out of joy. And in those tears of joy, I could feel the glimpse of God. I don't know how many people have experienced God, but I have experienced that emancipation, that mukti, the moksha, the liberation. I could feel it. And since then, I have decided that I dream a world where every child is free to be a child. I dream a world where every child is free to play and learn. A child is free to enjoy the fullest of her childhood. The world is not so poor. I always asked myself, and I am asking you too, whose children were they? Innocent, ignorant children who were killed so many years ago in Nagasaki, in Minamata, and Hiroshima. Whose children are in Gaza? Whose children who are kidnapped and killed in massacre by Hamas? Whose children are they? Who are those children? Whose children are those who are making shoes and apparels and footballs and chocolates at the cost of their freedom and childhood? Whose children are they? They are our children. They are your children. They are my children. But here comes the fundamental issues of governance. Global governance and local governance both. Until 1997, there was no international law against child slavery, child trafficking. World had made so much progress by that time, but there was no ILO convention or international law. ordinary people like me and many of young people, also some Japanese young friends, who were attracted with this dream and shared that dream that let us work for a new international legislation, a convention. We organized a worldwide march from 3 corners of the world in 1998, one from Sao Paulo, one from Manila, and one from Cape Town, with a singular demand that there should be an international law. "15 million children, women, and men participated in it. They have put their footprints or signatures or handprints on the pieces of paper when we reached Geneva in ILO General Assembly Convention. I could not forget when the children who were sold and bought like animals and even in lesser price than animals, the children who were pushed into prostitution, the children who were given guns in their hands to kill their own people in South Sudan, in Sudan and other places, these children were marching with us. And they were demanding and challenging that the world is not so poor that cannot take away the guns from the tiny hands, tools from the tiny hands, and replace them with books and toys and pencils. That was the moral voice of young people. I see so many youth, so many young people are sitting here in this. The young friends like you participated in the march in different countries, and their voice was so compelling, so authentic, so loud that no state, no government of the world could say no to it. And within a year, a new international law has been unanimously adopted. In 1999, in 1 year. And since then, the number of child laborers, including slave children, has gone down from 250 million to 150 million, roughly. That was the power of truth. That was the power of justice. That was the power of ordinary people. We were able to make it. It was for the first time when such children were allowed to enter in the General Assembly, they call it convention, ILO's annual convention, inside, and they were given podium to speak for themselves. So it is possible. Talking to so many young people in the world, I always feel that hope will prevail over the despair. The truth will always prevail over the untruth. The love will prevail over the cruelty. The peace will prevail over the wars and conflicts. But those who love peace, those who believe in hope, those who believe in compassion, those who believe in humanity, they are very divided people. Sometimes they feel that others will do. Those who are responsible for all these wrongs, they are louder, they are united sometimes, they are powerful, they make their own equations, but we think that we will keep on talking and something will happen. I think we have to come as collective voice, as we tried to do last week with 103 Nobel laureates. Today we have 160 million children working as child laborers, including child slavery, trafficking, etc., child prostitution. Today we have more than 200 children who have to be in schools, but they are out of school. I'm not giving too many figures and data, but these are our children. And if we fail our children today, we are going to fail the future of humankind. Every day, 10,000 children are pushed into exploitation, miseries, and child labor in Africa alone, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa. We were all happy that once the SDGs were adopted, and we were all celebrating that there are certain goals, at least the total eradication of child labor in all its forms is a goal which has to be achieved by 2025, goal 8.7. Mr. Ban Ki-moon, I remember our discussion in Delhi about it, and I not only sought your guidance and support, but also your blessings, and you have given great advice that how to move it forward for the incorporation of these issues into SDGs. So we worked with those people you have suggested on that beautiful dinner or before dinner, and then eventually we have been successful in inclusion of these things. But in the first 4 years of SDGs, it is for the first time in 20-25 years that the number of child laborers has grown, has increased from 152 million to 160 million. And that was the time when the world has become $11 trillion richer. $11 trillion richer. How long Africa would be exploited like that? When we talk of the global governance, my brother and friend Ramos Horta, President Horta, has brought some issues. Lema has also raised some issues. But think of a situation. Take any of those institutions. I'm not talking about the Security Council and United Nations, but if you think of, say, OECD. In OECD, there is no representation of any of the 38 sub-Saharan African countries. You can say that this is the group of rich countries. But what is the fault? Who made you rich? Who made you rich? The African poor labor, workforce including children, the African minerals, the African water, the African land. And then those who are rich, they sit in a club and no sub-Saharan African representation. Take the case of IMF. In IMF, the total votes, cumulated votes of 48 African countries are lesser than the votes of United Kingdom and a small country like Belgium. So this is the situation. Dear friends, only $53 billion additional money could ensure protection, freedom, education, and health for every single child in all low-income countries. $53 billion annually. And this is less than 9 days or now less than 8 days of global military expenditure. This is the way the things are working. And therefore, I have given a new call. We have globalized everything. This is the time to globalize compassion. Compassion is not, I underline, compassion is not a soft or a tender emotion, or not simply a virtue or value to be taught in temples, holy places. Compassion has its own inherent power. When you feel the suffering of others as your own suffering, with a strong motivation, with a strong drive to take action to end that suffering, that is compassion. That motivation, that drive, and the courage to take action makes you the leader, makes you the problem solver, makes you someone who can change the world with a very deep, very honest, and the purest feeling to feel the responsibility to each other and also sense the accountability that you are accountable to someone that is much more moral accountability than the accountability posed through the rule of law. This is a land. I come from India, and I was born in a place which has the stupas, the holy Buddhist monuments. And I know that you have embraced the teachings of Buddha 1,000 years ago. This is the land which is so pious because you have lived with the teachings of Buddha, and the core teaching of Buddha was compassion. But now we have to see the transformative power of compassion. Not the value or virtue of compassion, but the transformative part. And therefore, we strongly work or feel that we have to build the compassionate leadership in all walks of life. More importantly, the compassionate political leadership. There are good leaders in every country, in every party. Maybe the number is not so big. Sometimes they are not visible, sometimes they are not popular, sometimes they are not influential, but they have the power. And I think we have to respect them, and we have to bring them and multiply their life message, the compassionate moralistic leadership in politics, compassionate leadership in businesses, in corporations, that will help in making corporates more clean, more responsible for the people and planet both. When I'm talking about the compassion, compassion is not only between the human beings. You have to be compassionate to the water and air and river and mountain and plant and earth and everything. That sense of responsibility should be born. Compassionate teaching. Compassionate corporate sector would be much more, I would say, clean and honest, ethical, moral, in terms of not only production and supply, but also to make sure that no exploitation of people and no exploitation of planet for their own benefits. So that is very much possible, dear friends. Because we know those leaders here and there, and we have to work with them. Here are the people. I have been talking with some people yesterday in this small group of UPI discussion, and I could feel that power. When I sit with four of my most influencer and most inspiring sisters, the Nobel laureates, I could feel, and that affirms my belief that we can make this world a better place. Though it is difficult, but it is not impossible. The resilience, the human spirit, the courage, and the compassion which we are all born with, we have to channelize it as a transformative compassion in our lives. I would finally, just to sum up, I will ask my young friends with a 3D formula. My first D is dream. You are sitting in this hall. You are very fortunate. You are opportunate people. You have got a lot of opportunity to come here because you must be in some university or some jobs or somewhere. My young friends, dream. Dream big. Dream bigger. If you are allowed to dream, why are you dreaming to be the parliament member? Dream to become the United Nations Secretary General. Mr. Moon is sitting here. Look at him and then dream big. Dream the biggest. But those who dream for themselves, they are not really going to make this world a safer, better, peaceful, sustainable place. Not necessarily. So dream for the betterment of others. Dream for others, not just for yourself. My second D is discover. Discover your inner power. We are all born with immense possibilities and power. And discover the outside opportunities. Second D. And if you can dream big and better, if you can discover those things, whom are you waiting for? Can one of you tell what could be the third D, my young friends? Oh, I know that my sister is younger than me. And she is the one who said, do it. And that is Jodie, the Nobel laureate. So, what is my first D? Speak loudly. I can speak even louder without this microphone, I tell you, young friends. I don't want to make you ashamed that I am speaking louder than you without it. What is the first D? Look, someone like Mr. Moon is still dreaming and he says, yes, dream. So first D is dream. The second? Little more, little louder. Discover, yeah. And the third D? Third D? Do it now. Whom are you waiting for? Nobody is coming from the heaven to save you and save this planet. Dream, discover, and do. Dream, discover, and do. There was a heavy fire broken out in jungle. All animals were rushing for a safer place, including King Lion. And Lion noticed a tiny hummingbird flying straight towards the flames. And he shouted, what are you doing, committing suicide? She replied, no, sir, I was born and grew up here. I am going to extinguish this fire. He asked again, more surprisingly, how come? Then she answered, sir, look at my beak. Look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water. I am doing my bit, she said. I am doing my bit. Dear friends, there is a tiny hummingbird inside each one of us, each one of you. When you feel something is going wrong around you, the fire of violence, the fire of insurgency, the fire of hatred, the fire of revenge, the fire of cruelty, the fire of injustice, fire of inequality, if this is raging around you and you feel to do something, this is because of that tiny hummingbird. I call upon that tiny hummingbird inside you. Don't suppress her. If your tiny hummingbirds will come out, then we will have a new kind of global governance. We will be able to see the peace is a reality. We will have more joy, more fun, more love, more originality being a human being, getting rid of so many problems. I thank you so much. I thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Satyarthi.